Let's talk about it. You know that feeling where you're constantly aware of where the nearest bathroom is, or that sudden, intense urge to go just hijacks your entire day? If that sounds familiar, I want you to know you are so not alone. It's an incredibly common experience for women, but just because it's common doesn't mean it's not a huge disruption to your life.
So let's get right to it. Why? Why does this happen? It can feel really confusing, maybe even a little bit isolating. But understanding what's actually going on inside your body, well, that is the very first step to getting things back on track. And that's exactly what we're going to break down right now. I love this because it gets right to the heart of a huge myth. So many of us are told, or just assume, that this is just part of getting older or having kids, something we just have to put up with. But here's the really hopeful truth. Your bladder function is not set in stone. It is, and this is the key phrase, highly trainable. That means change is absolutely possible. Okay, so before we can figure out what might be going off the rails, we have to know what on the rails even looks like, right? We need a baseline. Let's talk about what's considered a healthy, quote-unquote, normal bladder function. It's hard to know if your patterns are off if you don't have anything to compare them to. Here it is, the magic number for your daytime routine. A healthy bladder usually signals that it's time to go about every 2 to 4 hours. So, if you feel like you're running to the bathroom way more often than that, it could just be a sign that your bladder's communication system is a little overeager. And it's not just about that 2 to 4 hour window. A truly healthy bladder pattern is the whole package. It means sleeping through the night, or maybe waking up just once at the most. And when you do go, it should be easy, a steady stream, no pushing or straining required. And afterward, you should feel completely empty and relieved. That's the goal. That's what we're aiming for. All right, here's a really crucial idea. Our bladders are constantly learning from our behaviors. And it turns out some super common, totally harmless seeming habits can actually be training your bladder in the wrong direction, teaching it to send those panic signals way too often. Let's look at some of the biggest culprits. The just-in-case pee. You know what I'm talking about? Before a long car ride, before a movie, just before you leave the house. We all do it. But here's the thing. When you go without a real, genuine urge, you're teaching your bladder that even a tiny bit of urine is cause for alarm. And over time, your bladder learns that lesson and starts sending urgent signals much sooner. This one might actually surprise you. We hover over public toilets to be hygienic, but that squatting position keeps all your pelvic floor muscles super tense. And here's the secret. For your bladder to empty all the way, those muscles have to completely relax. If they stay tense, you might be leaving a little urine behind, which can irritate the bladder and, you guessed it, make you feel like you have to go again really soon. So now let's talk about the exact opposite problem. If you're someone who regularly ignores your body's signals and holds it for hours and hours, that can overstretch the bladder muscle. Think of it like an old rubber band that's been stretched out too many times. It gets weak, and it can actually mess with its ability to send you clear signals about when it's full. Okay, real talk. Peeing should be a totally passive event. Your body is designed to do all the work. When we get impatient and push or strain to try and speed things up, we're putting a ton of unnecessary pressure on our pelvic floor. Over the long haul, that can really contribute to dysfunction. The goal is to just sit, take a breath, relax, and let it happen. So we've talked about habits, but it's not just how we go, it's also about what we put into our bodies. The lining of your bladder is actually incredibly sensitive, and some very common foods and drinks can act as irritants, sparking those feelings of urgency and frequency. And here's the usual suspect list. Caffeine is a big one. It's a double whammy, really, because it's a diuretic, meaning it makes you create more urine, and it directly irritates the bladder. Carbonated drinks, yep, even just plain old sparkling water can be a trigger for some people. Then you have alcohol, artificial sweeteners, spicy foods, and acidic things like citrus fruits and tomatoes. Okay, this next point is so important. We really need to make a distinction here because getting this right changes everything about how you treat the problem. That I gotta go right now feeling is not the same thing as leaking a little when you cough or sneeze. They come from completely different places. This breaks it down perfectly. Urinary urgency, what we've mostly been talking about, is a signaling issue. It's a communication breakdown between your bladder and your brain. But peasing, or what doctors call stress incontinence, that's a mechanical issue. It's a problem with the physical support system. It happens when pressure, like from a sneeze, overpowers the muscles that are supposed to keep everything closed. Different problems need totally different solutions. So, if these issues are trainable and they're often rooted in our habits or our body's signaling, what's the fix? Well, this is where specialized pelvic floor physiotherapy is a game changer. We're talking about a targeted, science backed approach that is way, way more than just being told to do a few Kegels. The path to relief is a clear one. It always starts with a thorough assessment to figure out what's really driving your symptoms. Then comes education, giving you the power of knowing what's going on with your own body. And all of that leads to a treatment plan that is 100% individualized because your body, your history, and your symptoms are unique.
And that personalized approach is really the gold standard of care. At a place like OVA Women's Health, for instance, their entire philosophy is built around that idea, creating treatment plans that are specific to you because they know there's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all solution. So if you do decide to get help, what should you be looking for? This is a great checklist. You want a team with deep expertise, whose care is all about education and physiology. Look for places that use advanced tools, like biofeedback, to get a really accurate picture. And maybe most important of all, you want compassionate, supportive care, where you feel heard and you're never, ever rushed. If you're just done with letting your bladder run your life, knowing that a real assessment is the first step can feel so empowering. Honestly, taking that first step to get answers can be a decision that changes everything. And for anyone who feels ready, a simple tool like this can be the perfect place to start. You can just scan the code on your screen with your phone to learn a bit more or to get info on how to book a professional assessment. Seriously, just pause and think about that for a second. What would that feel like? What would that change for you? Imagine that freedom. This isn't just about managing a symptom, it's about getting a piece of your life back.